just got laid off. I just got laid off.
One of the big stories this past week was the Washington Post announced massive layoffs and restructuring.
If you think layoffs are done, you are already behind what's coming.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, guess what? 2026, 600,000 layoffs.
You guys, with the number of people that were laid off in January and how quickly AI is advancing, it looks like we're entering a point of no return, as in governments may have to introduce universal basic income because there may not be enough jobs for all of us to work. So if you do have a job right now, now is not the time to quit. Please hold on to it with everything that you have. And if you have any sort of income available to you, whether it's like a side hustle or driving Uber, use it. Use your skills now to make as much money as you can while you still can. Because the world as we know it, meaning pre-AI, looks like it's just not going to be coming back ever. So this isn't to make you panic, it's to help you start preparing.
In January of 2026, we had a record amount of layoffs, the biggest amount that we've had since 2009. Many of those jobs were in tech and transportation specifically, and it was a 118% increase from the layoffs that happened last year. Now, what does that mean for you? Okay, the primary reason for these layoffs is listed by our good friend ChatGPT. They've been building for a long time. Cost-cutting, restructuring, shift towards AI and automation, economic causation, investor pressure, all of I think, having worked in tech for the past 7.5 years selling software, and that a lot of it has to do with, hey, companies are now saying, how can we be more efficient with less people? How can we use tools instead of more butts in seats to get the same job done? Because obviously, profit. I'm going to go into the jobs that are at risk, and then we're going to talk about the solution and where you should be pivoting if you fall into these categories. So the top 3 lower level jobs that are getting replaced by AI are data entry, administrative roles, content writing, like basic copywriters, things like that, entry level SEO writers, because all of that can be done by AI, and then customer support jobs and call centers. But what about the high paying jobs? The top 3 high-paying jobs that are at risk are financial analysts, forecasting, modeling, market analysis. All of that can be done very quickly with AI. Lawyers that are doing routine legal work like contract review. I use AI for all my contracts. I don't use a lawyer. Data scientists and analysis. So as long as the data is clean and is stored in the right places, right, you can use AI to do a lot of that. No, you might be thinking to yourself, well, I see plenty of people that are still in those jobs, and that's correct, because having just been at a tech conference and talking to plenty of executives, I realized that people are not adopting AI nearly as fast as the media is saying that they are. Like, most people are just using it to help them write better emails, to do some marketing content, things like that. They're not using it across the board yet for task automation because a lot of the companies aren't set up fully yet, integrated to do that. Over the next few years, we're going to see a shift to that migration. So as a worker, right, if you are doing something that is a manual task, right, that doesn't require thought, strategy, creativity, right? That is a job that will be at risk. So you have to start thinking, hey, how can I get more to that strategic level? Be the person that's using the tools to get the job done, not the person that's getting replaced by the tool. Because every tech salesperson, if you're selling tech to an executive, you know what you're saying? Hey, this is how we can save you money on time, cost, or headcount. Okay, that's how you justify the purchase to the business. So you have to literally say, hey, this is how many people we think you could let go if you automated these tasks, which will save you X amount of money. It all comes down to the bottom line, CFO, blah, blah, blah. So what can you do other than get yourself into a more strategic overseer type of role? Second way is to be visible. And a lot of that is posting on LinkedIn. And I know that sounds like you've heard that a million times, but posting about the projects, what you're learning, being visible, sharing on meetings. This is not overstepping and like outshining your boss. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is though is like sharing publicly what you're doing and what you're learning, so everybody knows the contributions that you're making, and having your boss be a part of that, like taking them along the journey with you and make sure they're advocating for you. Because if you're not out there positively contributing, sharing, hey, this is how I'm making the company better, this is how we are doing it, then you're more likely to be seen as just a number, which puts your job at risk in the long term. In January of 2026, the US job market had the highest amount of layoffs it's had since 2009. It was a 118% increase from the same month as last year. A large majority of this was in tech and in transportation. And I want to focus specifically on tech because that's where I worked majority of my career. A lot of it has to do with cost cutting, focusing on being more efficient as a company rather than just hiring more people and more butts and seats, especially with the evolution of AI and automations. But as somebody who has sold technology for over 7.5 years, I can tell you the number one thing we were telling all of the executives we were meeting with is, why would you pay and to hire more people if you could do the same thing with one person and an AI tool? What are the top 3 jobs that are getting replaced? Let's talk about it. So administrative and clerical work. So any kind of data entry, reporting. Then we have basic writing and content, because obviously ChatGPT, Claude, their Perplexity, all of those are doing it at the speed of light, so fast, so good, it's so easy to prompt. So now you don't need all these people on staff writing for you anymore. Then you have customer support and call center jobs. Okay, now that we have voice AI, all of that's getting replaced. We've already been kind of like seeing the slow transition to that. It takes customer service to a whole other level. But what about the high-paying jobs that are going to be replaced by AI? So the top 3 white-collar, high-paying jobs: financial investment analysis, replacing that for forecasting, modeling analysis. Lawyers that are doing like routine legal work. So AI can now handle document review, contracts. I use AI to write all my contracts. Like data science and data analysts are a lot of times doing the data cleansing, the dashboards, the insights is being taken over by AI. And you might not be seeing this at a mass scale yet because it's taking so long for companies to truly adopt it. I know this because I was just at a tech conference in San Diego not too long ago, and we were asking executives across the board how they were using AI in their companies, and just like people were sharing, and there were so many people that were not even using it beyond just using it to write emails. So we're still in the very beginning phases. Also, the trend that we're seeing is a lot of companies are hiring what they call an AI strategy officer. And that person's job is to figure out, how do we make the company the most efficient by implementing AI in other areas of our company? How do we enable our workforce, but also eliminate tasks and jobs that are just... So I still do think it's going to take a long time for us to adopt, but just know that tech salespeople, that's what we are selling. And the way that we are painting the return on investment is quite literally, hey, this is going to save you time, money, or headcount. Guess what they care about most? The bottom line. And guess what the investors care about most? The bottom line. So if you are in these industries, start paying attention to, hey, how can I make myself into more of a strategic advisor if I am in legal, if I am in writing or whatever else? Now that my job isn't to be the keyboard person, it's to be the advisor, it's to be the strategy, to look at the whole picture and then use AI for those things. That is how you want to start positioning yourself from a branding perspective.
Did a video yesterday talking about 108,000 people were laid off in January, and I had somebody respond to my message on my stories, and they had said, yep, I was one of them. I'm telling you guys, there is no job security anymore. I don't care what you do, there is no job security anymore. And what I love is, around your busy life, around your family, around your work schedule, you can launch and grow your own online business and literally just dedicate 2 hours a day. It can be 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here. And by this weekend, you can have a fully automated, rejection-free business out there working for you 24/7. And when you get a customer, you make 100% profit. You do not have to share your profits with anyone. And you know what's great? There is a step-by-step blueprint that you can follow. So you don't have to spend a lot of time learning. It is actually a learning and earning strategy. I actually have a training inside my program that goes launch to profit in 7 days. Follow that, implement that until you get your first customer. And then your business is in profit mode, and you can have a little bit of ease in your life because you have an extra income coming in. And what if you turn that into your full-time income in 2026? I'm telling you, don't sit around and watch the news and wait for something to happen. Make something happen in your life. So if you want free access to that Freedom Formula Blueprint, put blueprint in the comments and I'll give you the blueprint details.
600,000 corporate layoffs in January 2026, 30 days. That is an 118% increase in layoffs since the same time, January 2024. That is a 205% increase from December 2025. You heard me correctly. Highest amount of layoffs since January 2009. Do you remember what 2009 was? Great Recession. This the largest decline since the Great Depression. Stina, 1 out of 4 people have been unemployed for 27 weeks or longer. The unemployment percentage is delayed due to a 1-day government shutdown, and it is also an entire month behind. But there will be some.
One of the big stories this past week was the Washington Post announced massive layoffs and restructuring amid financial distress. I think I read somewhere that the Washington Post had suffered somewhere like $100 million in losses in this past year. Don't quote me on that, but I think I read that somewhere. However, in this video, I kind of want to talk about how I see people losing their minds about this online. I think people are like losing their minds primarily because the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. And, because Jeff Bezos is some big billionaire, people think that they shouldn't be laying people off and he should just be suffering these losses. I totally disagree. The Washington Post is a business. Whether it is owned by Jeff Bezos or a group of investors or some person that you don't even know. If it's losing money, people are going to try to turn it around and make it profitable. That's how running a business works. Like, just because Jeff Bezos is a billionaire does not mean he should suffer millions of dollars in losses just to employ people at the Washington Post, okay? Now, I saw that they're closing their sports desks. They're going to be doing less coverage on international affairs, closing podcasts, just restructuring in some areas. And I get it. I get that I don't want to see people lose their jobs, but this is what happens at businesses. They're going to close their, departments that aren't doing as well, that are not that profitable. I mean, for God's sake, I read somewhere that the Washington Post had something like 19 climate reporters on their payroll, and they fired 14 of them. That is insanity. Insanity. That they had 19 climate reporters. Frankly, they shouldn't even have any, if not 1 or 2. Like, the fact that they still kept, 4 on is insane to me. But again, this is a company, okay? Their job is to make money. Now, I get it. They're a media company. They're news outlets. So they're supposed to be reporting the news and doing hard-hitting journalism and all that stuff. And, in theory, if they do a really good job at that and the public likes the work they're doing, they're going to be more profitable, okay? Also, too, when it comes to media companies, especially legacy media companies like the Washington Post, they need to reinvent themselves. This is 2026. Media companies need to be leaner. They need to have more sources of revenue. They need to do things differently. This is not 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Okay, the advertising dollars are not the same. So these layoffs at the Washington Post can be a great opportunity for the organization to reinvent itself, to rethink itself, to find ways to generate new revenue. All of those things. Okay, again, I don't want to see people losing their jobs, of course. But at the same time, the Washington Post is a business, and people need to have businesses generating profits and doing well and be in good health, okay? If not, cost-cutting operations are going to happen. Layoffs are going to happen. Restructurings are going to happen. Investments to try to generate new revenue are going to happen, okay? That's just how business works. My thoughts on the Washington Post layoffs. Let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe I'm off here. I'm always open to maybe being wrong in these situations. So let me know if you think I'm right or wrong and your thoughts on the situation.
All right, friends. January 2026, 108,000 job cuts, layoffs. 108,000 in January. An increase of 118% from January of last year, and an increase of over 200% from the month before, from December of 2025. The highest number since January 2009, the highest January number since 2009. 2009, Great Recession, higher. That's where we're at. Okay? This is not feelings. This is not vibes. This is not boo-hoo, poor white-collar workers. Your jobs are going away, blah, 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 blah. This is fucking numbers. This is math. And if you think this is not going to have an effect on every other job industry, on every other function of our economy, this is not good, guys. This is not good. This is bad. This is a place we don't want to be in, and this is a really scary place for a lot of people. It's a really scary place for a lot of the people who have been laid off. It's a really scary place for a lot of the people who are already unemployed, because we know that the jobs numbers, the new jobs that are being created, is just fucking abysmal, right? More and more people going for fewer and fewer jobs. And the solution is not for everybody to just go wait tables, because do you know what happens during recessions and depressions? People don't spend money because they don't have it. Like, everything's connected. This is where we're at. So we all need to be very prepared for what's to come. Because the other problem, in the US at least, is that we're talking about recession stuff. We're talking about the Great Recession. We're talking about bad economic problems, and we have a government who is fucking ignoring it. Don't look over here, look over there. Wait, don't look over there. Look over here. Wait, don't look over there. Look over here. These kinds of things are hard when we have good stewardship in place. When we have what we have, I am not going to, I'm not going to be a catastrophist to everybody right now. I'm not going to be a fatalist. I'm not going to say it's all doomed, it's all terrible, run every man for himself, because I firmly believe that this is the time to unite. This is the time for community. This is the time to say, the systems that be have fucked us all over. Thank you so much, the generations that came before us that did not set us up for success, like every generation before has done for their children. Thank you so much for that. So now what do? We take it. We figure out what we need. We figure out what our communities need. We figure out how to get through life as best we can. And we assume the power that we need where we need it. Sometimes that is on a very, very micro level. Sometimes that's just within yourself. Sometimes that is about assembling. And that is about uniting. And that is about finding ways through the structures to take care of each other. And that's what we need to do. I refuse to be someone who catastrophizes and says, it's all terrible, there's no point. Always a point. Always a point. So we got to figure out what to do. How do we take care of each other? What does everyone need? What are your immediate needs, and how can you get them met? And how can you help to meet other people's needs? And how can we come together as communities to get our needs met? We have been so isolated, and we have been so disconnected, and we have been so pitted against each other for so long. No more divisions. All right? We have to take care of each other. This is not about white collar versus blue collar. This is not about college educated versus not. This is not about class divides. This is not about any of that. We got to take care of each other. We got to figure out how to assume more control over our own lives, and how we lean on one another to do that. We got to figure this out. We got to find the ways through life to get through the dark parts and get back to the light. We can do it. I promise you, we can do it. We have to stop fucking fighting with each other about it. We have to stop with these petty online disagreements. And you got to go back into your community, and you got to get face to face with people, and you got to figure out how to organize and take care of one another. Because we are not being taken care of by the people who are actually fucking supposed to be taking care of us. So we take care of each other. And then we figure out how to get the right people in place.
I wonder if they saw the irony coming. The Washington Post just laid off over a third of its staff. That's hundreds of people, including journalists, editors, and photographers. And I find it crazy because they were on a hiring spree just 5 years ago. And people are framing this as democracy dying because it's the Washington Post slogan. Is it because they think it's a reaction to a singular event, or do they believe it's an attempt to control the media? I'm not sure, but what I do know is that the Post reported a $77 million loss in 2023, and their digital traffic has dropped 50% since 2020, and they're struggling to replace readers with daily subscribers. And I'm sure that's not the entire story, and people are claiming that this is a political statement. And it may or may not be the case, but there is profitability issues, even though there's a billion-dollar owner. I think the point that they're trying to drive home is Jeff Bezos is trying to kill the paper for political favors. Even though this is the claim, the data shows that the business has been hemorrhaging money for years. And we do know that they've lost 250,000 subscribers over the last year. What is unknown is if a smaller, high-authority newsroom will be able to survive the changing news environment. And it's just not WAPO. It's been seen in other news outlets like LA Times and CNN. Readers aren't buying news anymore. They're buying authenticity and a shared identity. And when that's challenged, people are just going to cancel their subscriptions. What I personally want to know is, will we overcome these challenges, and what will the news industry look like in the future?
Many see a journalism crisis this week, and it's coming from a man who said he would save journalism, or at least the Washington Post, one of the pillars of American political journalism, because its owner, billionaire Jeff Bezos, isn't just making some cuts. He's slashed an entire third of the staff while courting Donald Trump. Critics are highlighting these tight links between Trump and billionaires, often in tech. The Atlantic says this is essentially a murder. This photo, by the way, is Bezos in the middle on January 20th inauguration. But that basically the Post became a, quote, bargaining chip with Trump, who doesn't respect bargaining supplicants. And that's not all. While Bezos is cutting those jobs, and some in his team saying it's about saving money, he's plowing about $75 million into this controversial Melania film, which she says isn't even a documentary and so far isn't making the money back, drawing punchlines.
Jeff Bezos, who paid for that garbage, just laid off hundreds of journalists at the Washington Post. I guess he spent all the budget on Melania. Well done, Jeff.
I think it's a reclamation of the divine feminine.
So it's not a $40 million payoff from Jeff Bezos just to kiss up to Donald Trump.
Shout out to the divine feminine, but this is not the first time this has come up. Politicians in office, Congress, White House, whatever, they exist in our society. If they want to sell a Toyota car for market price, they're allowed to do so. But if a powerful tech company billionaire or foreign oligarch wants to give them double or triple the value, well, that's a question of whether or not it's a bribe. And there are many credible accounts that this film project is overpaid for and overpromoted. Meanwhile, tech CEOs have not exactly raised their voices this term the way they did in the first term over what we've been living through. Take, for example, the day that federal agents killed Alex Preddy. Tech executives were at the White House for this film screening, including Amazon's competitors choosing to make the rare choice to show up and promote their competitor's business, a streaming film, and that raises questions of whether they were there for business or something else. First Lady sharing a photo of the room there. Some of the most powerful people in business told us they had certain values. Bezos bought the Post and stood by, we should mention, its coverage and saying democracy dies in darkness in the first term. Some of those other executives I showed you who were there on the inauguration day, first term, they were protesting the travel ban and other issues. And they can pick their own politics. There they are. The point is not that they don't have free speech. They're supposed to have free speech, which could include supporting Republicans. And yet, because so many of them were critical in the first term before these shakedowns and abuse of criminal powers, the question is whether some of the most powerful people in our country are folding while random individual citizens show what real courage looks like.
There are so many layoffs happening and jobs don't seem to be hiring, which leads me to believe that most of these places are actually understaffed. And instead of paying more workers to do more of the work, they're just literally putting all of the workload on the few employees that they already have. And then they also are offering overtime to these employees at these jobs instead of hiring more people. All of these job listings are pretty much fake. They're not actually looking for people to employ at these jobs. Yet they have a few employees working at the place, but they're understaffed. And then they put a lot of the workload on a few employees. And then they just offer overtime to those same employees who are already being overworked, instead of that company that's making money and making a profit every year just hiring more people to then do more jobs within the company. But clearly they don't want to hire anyone because they don't want to have to pay people out. And another reason why I feel like there are so many layoffs and people aren't being hired anyway is just because all of these companies invested in AI. And they're quite literally trying to figure out a way for AI to do all of these jobs. That way they don't have to pay human beings. But it's so insane to me that these job listings are up, but they're pretty much fake. And then a lot of these people working in these companies are noticing that their jobs are understaffed. And then because their jobs are understaffed, now they have to do more work at their job. And instead of hiring more people at these companies that make a lot of money, these companies basically just offer those few amount of employees overtime in order to be overworked even more than they already are. Because again, the company isn't hiring anyone and they're not literally helping the employee at all by literally making it so that their workload is less. They're just giving them overtime to get more work done. But it's they could have just hired people in order to do the work, but they're not doing that because they quite literally just want to have AI do everything so they don't have to pay human beings. That is currently what's going on. So that's why all these places are understaffed and they're not hiring people and these job listings are fake, and people who are working at these understaffed places are literally being overworked, and then they're just getting offered overtime rather than the company paying for more people to work there. This shit is really about to collapse. It cannot survive this way. I know that the collapse is coming. It really is.
I just got laid off. I thought 2026 was gonna be my year. Now I'm unemployed. Oh my god. Is this a prank? Am I missing something? What? I don't even know how I feel. Anger, I'm sad, I'm scared. This job, it fell into my lap when I was desperate, when I really needed it. So I gave it my all, gave it all my energy. I spent so much time learning and perfecting the craft so that I could be good at what I do. But while giving it everything, I lost myself. It's I became a robot. I would just show up. I would dread every single day. Mondays were my worst enemy. I fucking dreaded that day. Pretending I was okay, but I would really just go on break quickly and go cry in the bathroom. And yes, I told my managers, they were very aware of how I was feeling. They saw my downfall compared to when I first started to now. I was miserable at that job. But at the end of the day, the bills still gotta get paid. Life goes on. I don't know if it's a trauma bond or something, but it's scary. What the fuck is happening right now? I'm speechless. I can't even believe that this is happening right now. I have no job. I have no source of income. I'm fucked. My God. What is actually happening? I know that everything happens for a reason. Trying to stay positive here. You're telling me this is what was meant to happen. This is what was meant to happen. 2026, the year that Aaliyah is ready to go all in, no excuses, no fuckery, and I lose my job. It's a weird roller coaster of emotions because
I hated that routine that I was just stuck in where I did nothing but live for that job. I woke up last minute, did nothing with my mornings 80% of the time, would skip breakfast because of how late I woke up, would show up at the office and be miserable from 9 to 5, and then come home, eat supper, shower, sleep, repeat. Like, I have no life. All of 2025, I've spent it isolating myself. I haven't been spending time with my friends. I haven't been seeing family. I haven't been doing anything for myself. I don't have any hobbies. Other than creating content, what have I been doing? Nothing. I've been living for this job that doesn't give a fuck about me. And they just dump me like that. Just like that. Cheers to being unemployed. Damn.
Good morning, babes. I am going to hold your hands when I say this because I want you to hear me. There is a shift happening in the corporate landscape, the working world that we know. And I want you to make sure you are paying attention to the cues and to the changes that are happening within your organization. Layoffs are aplenty. It happened last year, more are happening this year. Today is February 2nd, and January brought a lot of job cuts. So be sure that you are tapped into what's happening in your organization. Did someone resign and they not backfill them? What is your workload looking like? Are things that you typically do now being put through higher levels of scrutiny before it's an automatic yes? Like, are budgets frozen? Do you avail yourself to like the town halls? What's being said? How did your company fare for the past year, Q1, Q2, Q4, full year financially? If you didn't listen and those recordings are still available on your intranet site, I would absolutely encourage you to go take a listen. If you Google your company XYZ in the news, what's popping up? What are they saying? What is happening in your particular industry? Does the current presidential administration have laws or governance that is making your company or your industry hard to do business? You should be tapped in and listening to those things, because also the job market is not easy right now. People are in the job market on average 6 to 12 months right now. That's hard. That's a lot. And there's a lot going on. So, I know we talk about our outfit of the day and all of that, but we need to be in prep mode for what could happen if you are left without your job. Is your savings enough to cover it? Can you pivot? Also, simultaneously, we have AI being a major game changer and player in this landscape. So listen to that as well. Like, how much AI is being adopted at your job? In your current role, are they pushing you to use certain automated tools, machine learning, and all of that? I also will encourage you to say, in the role that I am in, is it specialized? Is it niche? Is it technical? Is it, one of those roles that AI can or cannot replace? You need to answer that. If it can replace it, you should be absolutely figuring out how you upskill. You should be trying to upskill immediately. For those where it could maybe shave headcount, I champion it. How do I show that I can adopt this and use it for the good of my role, but I am still more of a subject matter expert, that I would be someone that is needed to lead this tool? And you too should still be upskilling if there's anything that you can get better at. But also, here again, in those specialized technical or niche roles, you should be leaning into the technology. Resistance is not your friend in that landscape. Definitely seeing, how do I enhance it, how I use it to drive insights, data, proficiency, streamline processes, whatever that looks like, to be better at my role. You should be tapping into those things. But it's scary out here right now. Even for me, I'm speaking for me as well. The cuts are rolling, the cuts are cutting, and I just don't want any of us to be out here coming into a conversation abruptly that changes our lives and we had no notice. Keep your head on swivel. Listen to all the things. Read the emails. They give you the information. Some of us just choose not to avail ourselves to it. But more importantly, cut back on the spending. Save some money, because if you find yourself without, you don't know how long you might be in this job market. I really hope this helps someone. Comment down below. Tell me, what you're seeing. Do you have uneasiness right now at your company? Because you could absolutely be onto something. Is AI being pushed? Tell me about all of that. Have a good day, babes. Bye.
So this morning I walked into the office and it was weirdly empty. I didn't think much of it, and then I logged on and opened up my email. Immediately saw a 20-minute meeting scheduled on my calendar, and I already know what that meant. I grabbed my stuff and left the office. I was there for maybe 5 minutes at most and came back home. Got read my severance package,
got read when I'm going to roll off my benefits. And now here we are on the floor of my living room. And honestly, I am okay. Like I always preach on here that the job market is cooked and to always not put all your eggs in one basket. This is not a shock. A lot of people are getting laid off these days. And 100%, I'm not taking this to heart of my performance. Or I've literally people that were at my company for more than 12 years were impacted. I was talking to one of my friends about this, but I was telling her, I was like, I have to tell you guys, like I cannot keep creating content and not tell you what is actually happening within my career. And funny enough, I also post content about how to try to get a job. So here I am going to show you guys how I'm going to get my next job. Obviously not happy about what's going on, but I always say that everything happens for a reason and it's in God's plan. So be prepared to be sick of me of laid off girly series coming up.
Pinterest has fired hundreds of workers for the sake of AI efficiency, but those two engineers that tried to track down exactly and figure out who did get fired, well, Pinterest fired them too. Let's talk about it. In late January, Pinterest announced that it was cutting 15% of its entire workforce, roughly 700 jobs. The CEO, Bill Reddy, said that the company was, quote, doubling down on AI-forward approach. Again, all in the namesake of AI. This is coming out of Euronews, by the way. According to that source, Euronews, several Pinterest engineers built in an internal script to find out exactly who was being let go, again, in the name of an AI-forward approach. It tracked things like Slack accounts that have been removed, so employees could know exactly who was being let go, but not from a rumor mill, but from actual data. Pinterest admin caught wind of this and then fired the engineers who made that tool that tracked this data. The company claims they, quote, improperly accessed confidential information and violated coworkers' privacy. But again, things like Slack accounts being removed can be noted and is pretty public if you do work into the company. There might be an NDA involved here, though. I don't know. However, at an all-hands meeting where people get together at like startup companies and all come together and discuss their tasks, their developments, their achievements, all that stuff. During that meeting, as reported by FinTool, CEO Bill Reddy then called that behavior obstructionist behavior. He looked at those employees and said, if you don't want to get with AI, then you can get with that door and leave. And this, again, is one anecdote that we're seeing repeated in various industries, not just specifically Pinterest. However, management has framed it as misconduct, as you probably see happening all around you in, again, various industries as AI continues to push out actual workers. Because the companies are justifying all of these layoffs, these cuts in the name of AI efficiency, in the hopes that AI will replace the workers and the cost it takes to employ these workers. Workers yearn for transparency, even during the layoff process. But again, that's just humans being pesky little humans, right? I guess that's the idea of AI replacing jobs. Then they've replaced the headaches that humans cause. The headache of wanting to know who was fired, which one of your workers won't be returning. Because if AI replaces the people, I guess there's no people left to advocate for people. But I guess that's the point. Until next time, look out for your coworkers. Bye.
Executives are laying people off for AI that they've not even implemented yet. And it's not because AI replaced the work, it's because they're scared that it might. I know people who have seriously considered slashing their entire help desk team because AI is going to handle it now. But 6 months later, they're still using the same ticketing system and there's no AI, just fewer people doing a whole lot more work. And that's not strategy, that's herd mentality with a severance package attached to it. But listen, some companies have genuinely implemented AI and restructured around it, and that's different. That's adaptation. But if you're in tech right now, stop asking, will AI take my job? And start asking, is my leadership making fear-based decisions? Because here's the pattern I keep seeing. Companies that panic fire over AI headlines tend to be the same companies who panic decide about everything. Your raises, your projects, your future. And the AI is not the red flag. The decision-making culture of your employer is the red flag. Next time you do a job interview, I want you to ask these 3 questions. Number 1, what is your AI implementation roadmap for the next 18 months? And if they can't answer that specifically, they're just vibing and they're not strategizing. And this is a big red flag. And pay attention. The hesitation will tell you a lot more than the words they say. Number 2, How did leadership communicate during your last major change? Restructuring, layoffs, and pivots. How'd you guys communicate that stuff? And you want specifics, because if they give you vague answers like, we kept everyone informed, that means they didn't do anything about communicating. Number 3, what roles have you created in the last year? Companies that only cut and never build are usually companies who are in survival mode, and you want to be somewhere that's growing, not just reacting. Now look, if you're already in a fear-based company, here's your move. First, you need to be documenting your wins. Keep them quantified. Revenue saved, problems solved, hours that you've automated. You need receipts for those wins. Number 2, you should build skills that compound, not just AI prompting skills, but systems thinking. Understanding how AI fits into workflows, because that's what leadership actually needs. Number 3, you gotta be networking. You should be DMing one person in your industry every single week, and you're not asking them for a job, you're just building relationships, because the people who survive layoffs aren't always the best performers. They're the most visible and the most connected. If you want to talk strategy with people who are actually navigating this stuff, not just doom scrolling about it, I built a Discord community for exactly that, and the link is in my bio. People can share interview questions that have actually worked, real job leads, and real talk about building careers that don't depend on your boss not panicking. I hope this helps. Be sure to follow if you like nerdy stuff.
I'm telling y'all, if you think layoffs are done, you are already behind what's coming. I'm gonna say this real slow, because some people are still pretending that everything is fine. A shift is happening in the labor market, folks, and it's a real shift. And if you don't have the knowledge for it, it's still gonna run you over. So I lost my job last year and all the hoopla, right? And every week I'm talking to somebody that either got laid off and lost their job, or they know somebody that lost their job. Whether it's government, tech, manufacturing, y'all see all the names, it doesn't really matter, right? It's everywhere. Now, some people keep saying it's AI, it's AI, it's AI. I'm like, nope, that's not it. AI is the excuse, but profit is the actual reason why so many layoffs are happening. These companies are not choosing between you and technology. They are choosing between you and their profit margins. And every time they're going to step over your unemployed body to make those shareholders happy. And be clear, the government is not stopping it. They're leading the charge, because now the mentality is profits and politics over people. And I'm just wondering how much loss America can absorb before it's not sustainable. Because rent, mortgage, groceries, insurance, all of that shit is going to collide all at the same time. So if you've been laid off, I see you, okay? And if you haven't been laid off yet, be honest. Is it feeling like any day now it could happen to you? Told y'all, this is not random. This is exactly how the system is supposed to work to keep the rich rich. Now the question is, how long are we expected to just take it?
When are we going to admit the truth that it's a recession? It's been a recession. 600,000 layoffs in January. 600,000 layoffs. Look around you. Your pay isn't increasing, but everything is going up in price. The only thing that went down slightly is gas. That's about it. And y'all think it's time to throw all your money away. Oh, we should go and buy Gucci or Ferragamo. Oh, no, we got bread. We should throw all our money away on sports betting. No, we good. We should throw away all our money on luxury dates. That's what we should do to impress a bunch of women that don't really like you and they're struggling. And they're just dating you so that way they can get some food because they don't have any food in their refrigerator. Oh, no, it's cool. I'm going to blow all my money on going to Whole Foods, buying the most unnecessary food products because I need to feel like I'm high-end, brother. You're stupid. You're stupid, ma'am. You're stupid. We don't want to admit it, but we've been through it. We've been in a recession. It's been a recession. Most of the jobs are fake anyway, and no one's really hiring, even though there's a bunch of applications available online. You go on Indeed, you apply to a job. After you apply to the job, the company sends you an email, says, oh, we're not going to look at your resume until you apply to the job on our website. And then you apply to the job on the website and you give them your resume, right? And then when you give them your resume, then after that, what do? They say, oh, well, that doesn't count. You actually need to fill out each individual portion of your resume on our website. So you're filling out your resume 3 times. And then you never get a response. You don't even get an, sorry, we don't want you for the job. They don't even respond Period. Period. What is crazy is that a human will never see your resume. It's being read by a bot, and they're looking for ATS or compliance in your resume. They're not looking to see if you're actually qualified. These are bots that are reading your resume. 600,000 layoffs in January. Don't quit your job. Get another one. It's only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse.
Well, you knew it was only a matter of time before one of the big corporates tried to figure out how they could lay off a bunch of people, mass layoffs without severance. And it appears Meta's going to be the one that tests this. They announced layoffs of up to 5% of their workforce. I think that's close to 4,000 employees. And they're using performance reviews in order to decide who they're letting go. Now, there's mixed signals. So if you're in Meta and you've got one of these severance packages, let me know. But I heard it's going to be minimal compared to what a traditional layoff package is. So maybe they're trying to skirt around the legal issue. Again, this just brings it into call, are they phantom pips? Are these folks at a performance review after 20 years without any issues? They got one performance review and now they've been terminated. To me, this sounds like a way to turn over the folks they want out of the organization subjectively. You know, could it be age related? Could it be cost related? I would bet almost everything I have that it's going to be cost related.
We have horrible economic news this morning as layoffs are surging in the United States of America. Some of the worst months for layoffs since 2009, the year after the Great Recession. Let's talk about it. According to Challenger, layoffs in January of this year in 2026 have reached their highest point to start a year since 2009. In January alone, U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs. That's up 118% from January of 2025. Remember, that month was 20 days under Biden, about 10 days, 11 days under Trump. That is 205% up from December 2025, the highest of any January since 2009. At the same time, companies announced just 5,306 new hires in the month of January, the lowest in any January since 2009. Some really bad economic news right now. Spread the word and follow along, stay up to date on all the news you need to know about.
So Amazon has laid more people off at the beginning of 2026, and I just have to say, why are corporations allowed to do this? Why are corporations allowed to lay off their hardworking employees that have allowed them to make a estimated $21 fucking billion in Q4 of 2025? Why are they allowed to lay people off, to lay off their hardworking employees that made them that profit, just so they can increase stock prices, just so they can increase shareholder value, so they can uproot people's lives, just so they can make their fucking stock price go up? It is fucking ridiculous. They have laid off an estimated 30,000 people. 30,000 people who no longer have insurance, who have to find a new job in one of the worst fucking job markets in American history. Their lives just upended because some rich fucking douchebag wanted to see their fucking stock price go up. America is such a fucking dog shit fucking country. It's like, hey, rather than like doing the right thing and making sure that your employees are taken care of, let's go ahead and fire them so we can put more money to AI, so we can make the stock price go up. Fucking ridiculous. This country is so fucking dog shit. And don't pretend that it's because they have to be competitive or anything like that. Elon Musk has received so many fucking government subsidies, and if China's electric cars were allowed to come into America, his company wouldn't exist anymore. That's what true competition is. If companies from around the world were actually allowed to be competitive, this shit wouldn't happen, because they would be doing everything they can to make sure that their workforce doesn't go work for the fucking competitor. But in this case, that shit can't happen, because we like to restrict our little bubbles and we like to fucking maximize stock prices, because what happens for the citizens doesn't fucking matter. Only stock prices do.
When your job is not secured, you can still get laid off. You can still get fired. I learned very early on in my career that I am not good at playing the corporate game. Either you play the game or you get out. I've been in corporate for almost 5.5 years now, since I graduated from university back in 2020. Keep in mind, I didn't have a graduation. I mean, I did everything that I was supposed to. As a first generation student, you couldn't tell me that after graduating from a top 5 university that my spot in life was not secured. I went on to network to land jobs in Fortune 500s and also Fortune 100 companies. And still after all of that, it feels like it's not enough. This is my third job in 5.5 years. I learned very early on in my career that I am not good at playing the corporate game. All that to say is, it's important to develop skills or go into a field or get a degree or get a higher education degree in something that will last you for at least the next 30 to 40 years. If I had to go back and do it again, number one, I'm going straight into a STEM major. The major I graduated with was marketing and communications / public relations. I don't even use that degree. Well, at least not directly. I went into tech consultant sales. And though it has been a blessing and the financial aspect of it has been great, the mental health part of it, not so much. You can go to a top 5 university. You can be the first to graduate in your family. You can work for a Fortune 500 or 100 company. And still, when your job is not secured, you can still get laid off. You can still get fired. There's still people in line who can replace what you do, regardless of how good you are at it. And there's always somebody willing to take a lower price at that specific job than you are. All that to say is, either you play the game or you get out. Because as long as you're working for somebody and their goals and their dreams are always expendable. I'm not saying it to give you anxiety. I'm not saying this to fearmonger you into submission. What I'm saying is that always get what you need out of that job. Never get too comfortable. And if there's any lesson you get from this, make sure that not only are you enjoying your life while you're working that job, you're also saving money for a rainy day. Since 2020, our generation has experienced probably the most layoffs in history at such a rapid rate. So always do what's best for you. Get the hood, get that bread, and then you leave, okay?
So much for the Dell employees pushing back on that return to office mandate. If you recall, back in June, 50% of the workforce, Dell workforce, which is about 60,000 employees, basically told management, we're not coming back to the office, even if that means no raises, promotions, or eligibility for lateral movement. Well, apparently it didn't take Dell management too long to strike back against that, because it was reported yesterday, another massive layoff at Dell. This time up to 12,500 folks will be caught up. There was no detail yet on who or where, but that's in addition to 13,000 people that they let go of last year. So 25,000 people here in 12 months, 18 months, something like that. I'd be super curious to see, what percentage of the layoffs actually were folks that said they weren't coming back to the office. I didn't see that detail anywhere, but if I find it, I will absolutely share it. And it's just not getting any better out there. So if you're Gen X, especially if you're Gen X, you don't even get started on, trying to find a new job if you've been caught up in the layoffs. So if you are curious, of life outside of corporate, I did set up a free Slack group.
Layoffs in the month of January. That's 500,000. 500,000 people laid off in the month of January alone of this year, 2026, starting the year. And these layoffs are coming from everywhere. Government layoffs, tech layoffs, retail, all kinds of layoffs. It's not just the tech industry anymore, man. It's everywhere. Everybody's laying off. Food industry, entertainment industry, movie industry, freaking video game industry. Everybody's is laying people off. It's not stopping. And it looks like it's just going to get worse in 2026. So in 2026, we could reach maybe another 1 million layoffs, because at this point, since 2024, we are like beyond 5 million layoffs if you count it. And there's also layoffs that have not been counted, that have not been recorded. There's a lot of numbers that have not been recorded. Everybody's getting laid off. So many people are getting laid off. It's going to become so hard to find a job. People are going to be wrestling each other for a job. So this is literally a humiliation ritual to get a job, right? And this is what the elites want. They want you to be broke, no job, so that way, you can invest into yourself. You cannot go up the ranks and save money and then start your own business and be independent of the system. They don't want you to be financially free in any sort of way, because then that means you won't rely on them. And what these big corpos want is for you to be reliant on them and rely on the system and not be independent. You understand? That's what's happening. That is what's happening now.
If layoffs are feeling like a constant in 2026, it's because they are, and the wave is far from over. I want to be very clear. What we are seeing right now is not random, and it's not isolated to one company or one industry. In January alone, Amazon announced 16,000 corporate layoffs on top of cuts made in 2025, bringing recent reductions close to 30,000 jobs. UPS is reducing up to 30,000 roles, largely due to buyouts and natural departures. PayPal cut around 2,500 jobs, nearly 9% of its workforce. Nike laid off more than 500 employees at its Memphis facility, and companies like Pinterest, Expedia, and Wayfair have also announced layoffs. This is what many HR teams are calling a white-collar recession, especially in tech, finance, and logistics. This isn't about people suddenly underperforming. It's about companies changing how they operate. In part 2, I'm going to explain why companies are doing this and why even strong employees are being impacted.
Layoffs in January were the highest to start a year since 2009, Challenger says. U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs for the month, up 118% from the same period a year ago and 205% from December 2025. The total marked the highest for any January since 2009. At the same time, companies announced just 5,306 new hires, also the lowest January since 2009, which is when Challenger, Gray, and Christmas began tracking such data. Layoffs planned hit their highest January total since the global financial crisis, while hiring intentions reached their lowest since the same period. Outplacement firm Challenger, Gray, and Christmas reported Thursday. U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs for the month, up 118% from the same period a year ago and 2,005% from December 2025. The total marked the highest for any January since 2009, while the economy was in the final months of its steepest downturn since the Great Depression. At the same time, companies announced just 5,306 new hires, also the lowest January since 2009, which is when Challenger began tracking such data. The crisis recession officially ended in March 2009. With the recent narrative centering on a no-hire, no-fire labor market, the Challenger data suggests that the layoff part of the equation could be stepping up. In January, we see a high number of job cuts in the first quarter, but this is a high total for January, said Andy Challenger, workplace expert and chief revenue officer for the firm. It means most of these plans were set at the end of 2025, signaling employers are less than optimistic about the outlook for 2026. To be sure, if employers are stepping up plans to furlough workers, it hasn't been showing up much in official government data. However, initial jobless claims for the week ended January 31 total a seasonally adjusted 231,000, the highest since early December, so the spike likely had something to do with a brutal winter storm that hit large parts of the country. The longer-term trend still was at its lowest since October 2024. Some high-profile layoffs announcements have boosted fears of wider damage in the labor market. Amazon, UPS, and Dow Incorporated recently have announced sizable job cuts. Indeed, transportation had the highest level from a sector standpoint in January, due largely to plans from UPS to cut more than 30,000 workers. Technology was second on the back of Amazon's announcement to shed 16,000 mostly corporate-level jobs. Planned hiring dropped 13% from January 2025 and was up 49% from December. Challenger data can also be volatile and not correlated to official statistics. However, filings with the Labor Department in January under Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Regulation indicate more than 100 companies have given notice of significant layoffs. What do you guys think about this? Please like, please comment, please follow, please buy Canadian, please buy from EU, please buy from UK, and please buy us.
The job market the past few years has been absolutely cooked. But the good news is that in 2026, more companies are optimistic about growing their sales teams. I know this year has started off a little bit rocky with a few major layoffs, thinking about Amazon, Pinterest just this week. But on the whole, there have actually been less layoffs going on. And I've heard a lot more companies looking to hire salespeople or go-to-market people. So those are people who might be in marketing, sales at every single level. And what that means is that companies are looking to grow. You don't hire salespeople unless you're looking to grow. This is a good sign for all of us. I've spoken to a lot of recruiting leaders who are also looking to hire recruiters for their team. They're looking to build out because they're planning on doing more hiring either Q2, Q3, Q4 of this year. These are all great signs. Now, you guys know me. I'm usually super pessimistic about the job market because it's been absolutely brutal. But I think as the year goes on in 2026, we're going to see more positive hiring. Let me know what you think about it in the comments.
Let's talk about who's most at risk for 2026 layoffs. This is not about intelligence or effort. It's about how companies are redesigning work. First are middle managers. Companies are flattening org charts. That means fewer people managing people and more individual contributors carrying broader responsibilities. If your role exists mainly to pass information up and down, it's being questioned. And second is roles with repeatable, process-heavy tasks. AI and automation are replacing work operations, reporting, customer support, and parts of marketing and finance. It's not about being replaced overnight. It's about being reduced over time. And third is internal support roles that aren't revenue facing. When companies cut costs, they protect revenue first and trim support second. This includes HR, recruiting, learning and development, DEI, internal communications roles. Fourth is highly paid roles with a narrow scope. Leadership wants fewer specialists and more adaptable skill sets. Versatility is becoming more valuable than title. More resilient roles tend to be those that directly drive revenue, solve complex problems, work with AI instead of competing against it, and adapt across all functions. Being at risk doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you need to be intentional. Ask yourself, if my role disappeared tomorrow, what skills would I still bring to the table? That answer matters more than your job title.
It's February 5th, 2026. Here's the latest news. Devastating economic numbers in today. U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs in January alone, according to Challenger Gray and Christmas. That's a 205% increase from December and the worst January for job cuts since 2009 at the height of the Great Recession. In addition to stocks being down today, Bitcoin continues to get absolutely hammered, losing about 50% of its value since its peak just 4 months ago, and it's now below where it was before Trump was elected. In Epstein updates, newly released video logs appear to contradict official accounts of what happened leading up to Epstein's death. DOJ records show investigators reviewing surveillance footage the night before Epstein's death spotted a blurry orange figure moving up the stairs toward his locked cell tier around 10:39 p.m., contradicting official claims that no one entered the tier. The FBI described the figure as possibly an inmate, while the DOJ Inspector General suggested it was a corrections officer carrying linen. Official reports never mentioned the sighting, even though it fell within the estimated window of Epstein's death, and the fallout from the files continues to grow. Brad Karp, chair of the law firm Paul Weiss, has resigned over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein as revealed in the files. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has apologized for appointing Epstein associate Peter Mandelson to an ambassador role and is now trying to weather the fallout. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton told Republican Congressman James Comer to, quote, stop playing games and allow her and her husband Bill Clinton to testify regarding Epstein in public, not behind closed doors. In other news, Democratic senators are issuing a cryptic warning about CIA activities. Senator Ron Wyden wrote to the CIA director, quote, I write to alert you to a classified letter I sent you earlier today in which I express deep concerns about CIA activities. We do not have further information at this time. More major developments. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent confirmed during a Senate hearing today that if Trump were to win his $10 billion lawsuit against his own IRS over his tax records, the money would go directly from taxpayers to Trump. And Virginia Democrats announced they have agreed to a new congressional map that would create 10 Democratic seats and 1 Republican seat. We'll keep you updated. Follow along and listen to the Midas Touch podcast for more.
After applying for 324 jobs, getting 9 interviews, and 0 job offers, I'm convinced that I'm just destined to be homeless. And the worst part is I am $117,000 in debt because some idiot convinced me that going to school and getting a degree was actually going to get me something. I don't want to hear go in person and apply for a resume. Mom, leave me the hell alone. That shit doesn't work. I was talking to one of my friends a couple weeks back, telling him about how bad I was struggling to get a job, and he managed to land a job. He has an associate's degree. How the hell did he get a job before me? But he told me he's been using this app called Sprout, and he's been auto-applying on there. And he applied to over 200 jobs in a week. It took me 4 months to apply for 300 jobs. He did it in a week.
So by the time he got to month 2, where he was at 800 jobs, he actually got 2 job offers. So I'm gonna go try that. Seems to be a very trustworthy method. Pray for me, y'all.
The U.S. job market is getting scary. New data showing that more than 108,000 jobs were cut in January. That's the most layoffs since January of 2009. You've seen the headlines, companies like Amazon, UPS, even just recently the Washington Post. And it's not just the layoffs. Hiring is slow as well, compounding a trend that we saw even in 2025, where we had more unemployed than jobs available. I talked with the experts. They say, listen, don't freak out. One of the most important things that you can do right now is breathe, level up your skills, tap into your network, and have a plan. Next Wednesday, February the 11th, Bill Fitzgerald, CEO of Fitzdrake Search, author as well as career expert, he and I will be hosting a Zoom session where we'll be talking about resume tips, interviewing tips, and helping those currently in the job market looking for their next opportunity. The details to that Zoom session are below. We look forward to seeing you, and be sure to like and follow for more.
As somebody who turned down a FANG offer, I've gone a couple times in the past. Do I ever regret not accepting a FANG offer? Which I don't know what there is to regret. I still work for a big company. I still work for a Fortune 100, Fortune 50-ish company. But one of the reasons was job security. And with me seeing job security, you probably guess what company it was with everything going on right now. Because I'm not going to say no names. But one of my main reasons for making my decision was job security. People that I knew here, my name is Phil, I'm a cyber engineer. And I graduated last May and was able to get a job right out of college. And before I graduated, I was juggling different offers. And job security, when it comes to these offers, was up there. Obviously, there's the pay, sign-on bonus, all that stuff. But job security was definitely up there. And I feel like somebody that's coming out of college, that's super important because you want to start adulthood, your adult big boy job, right, solid. So for me, it was super important. At so-and-so FANG company, I just didn't feel like I could be for sure, oh yeah, I could be here for a year or two, regardless of how I perform. So a lot of people that are affected by these layoffs doesn't mean they're bad employees. It's simply just business, They do what's best for them, and it truly sucks that good employees are getting cut. I know 2 people closely that are affected by these layoffs, and I know they'll bounce back. I know they'll get a job within a month because these guys are brilliant. But yeah, to people that are in college, think about job security. Super important. Don't just think about the money and everything. Think about the future, and job security has to be up there when you're thinking about these job offers.